and you'd be leaning, you put your hands behind your back and lean back against the brick wall to try and get some heat from the sun hitting the brick wall. But of course the brick wall wasn't that long, so you'd have a lot of kids trying to get their spot on it, and if you got your spot, you kind of hung on to it as best you could. Some of the older boys just come along and take some of the younger boys and just push them away from it and take the spot, but that was part of the process of growing up there. So, but yes, leaning against the brick wall. Some of the boys would sneak into the laundry and run their hands under the hot water tap to try and warm their hands up. So, but you couldn't do that too often. So the brick wall was like our heater, our furnace to sort of try and warm our back and our hands up. My lucky number, I still use it today as my lucky number, was 25. You put 25 on your underpants and your singlet. So when 72 boys get their clothes washed and their underpants and singlets washed, you could go back and get your own pair. So you didn't get anybody else's. But apparently, if you talk to some of the older boys that were there during the wars, that only came about in my time. So you got whatever fitted you, if you were lucky in the early years. Boys were always hungry, and we always felt hungry. As you got older, you realised the food was mostly given to us from the people in Goulburn themselves. It was donated food, whether it be fruit or vegetables and things like that. But we were always hungry, but it was tough life. But we got educated, and it was fair. The nuns were tough, but extremely fair. Yes, in my 10 years there, the snow fell about maybe 2 or 3 times heavy enough for us to create. We used to go and play in the snow. We also wore shorts all year round, so we were a pretty hardy lot, but you would, someone started one day putting rocks in the snowballs, and the last thing you wanted to do was get hit by them. It was like when we had pillow fights, someone used to put books in the pillowcases, so they were pretty full on. So, yeah, rocks in the snowballs, and you didn't, of course, know that till you got hit by one. There was a lot of accidents with that, the nuns would have to take you up to the Goulburn Hospital and get you sort of stitched up or fixed up, but that was fairly constant thing. I was out on the front balcony as you stood at the front of the building and walked up. I was on that balcony up there. It was very, very cold. I can never remember being hot in Goulburn, always ever cold. We used to watch the spotlight out on the big searchlight spinning around out on the War Memorial on the hill on the other side of Goulburn. And you used to have 2 blankets, so we'd fold them in half, so we'd give us we had 4. And you'd get into bed and you wouldn't move because the bed would be freezing cold. So once you got your bit warm, you stayed in that position as long as you could. There was always sort of this cold wind that was sort of blowing down the corridor down the hallway, or there just always seemed to be a cold wind. It didn't matter whether you're in the courtyard or wherever, so that's why you sort of bunched up together trying to stay warm. But of course, it didn't help wearing shorts all year round. That just didn't help at all. So, and there were those shorts with the material that was very itchy. So you were constantly scratching your legs. Some of the older boys have more of an emotional attachment to it, whereas I've been able to move on and build a life. So I can talk of it where it was tough. I can talk of it with a sense of pride. I can talk of it on behalf of the nuns with a sense of pride, even though some of them, we used to call them the Sisters of No Mercy. It's part of character building, because we were sort of taught respect. We were taught a whole range of things that you didn't quite understand at the time. But you know, it's like you have, and it's up to that individual to learn from these things that happen to you. Someone wise once said, "The experience is not what happens to you; it's what you do with what happens to you." So I've been lucky. I've been able to make good choices. So, and I know a lot of the boys have. Some of them became engineers and all sorts of things, and been very, very successful in life. So they were the lucky ones that were able to make good choices. And I know there were some boys in Goulburn that stayed there. Some of them are now dead. They were there in my time through fights in pubs and losing an eye in a pub and being in jail, and you know, they were all given the same opportunity, but just made wrong choices. So, and my choice, I suppose, was to get out of Goulburn as quick as I could. So. Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting. It's going back to an era, Michelle, where parents used to give their children a smack or a belting at home. You know, the nuns didn't sort of come with we didn't come with an instruction booklet, and I suppose 72 boys and 3 nuns, which was the numbers when I was there, and during the war years it was 220 boys, with the most being 5 nuns. So there's 3 nuns looking after 72 boys, and you know, so we consider ourselves the big large group of us that still stay in touch and have reunions. We consider ourselves quite lucky with what the nuns did to us, even though we got a belting. But the life there was far better than the life I was having at home. I probably, like a lot of us that consider ourselves lucky, I probably would have ended up dead or in jail if the nuns hadn't taken me in. And I was actually a ward of the state, so I was put in there by the courts. But there would be kids just turn up that someone would drop off because families couldn't feed them, or split families, or alcoholic families, and the nuns would never turn them away.